Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I feel like after the presentation of such heavy topic from ashes to a new National Library, I need to give you some trigger warnings. It's going to be super light. And then I'm going to take you outside of your comfort zone. So a little bit of trigger warning. I'm going to talk about money. And I'm going to talk about exhibitions, but you don't have any control. Well, a little bit. So my name is Chao. I work at the British Library in the commercial services. I look after the East and Southeast Asian market in building partnerships and cultural partnerships to generate income for the British Library. What I'm going to talk about today is called location-based experiences. Sometimes people call it location-based entertainment. I'm going to kind of refer it as LBE for the following of the presentation. Is it? Okay, so how did we start? Back in 2021 in Shanghai, so if you still remember, that was in the middle of pandemic. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't travel, we couldn't bring any objects abroad. So we're thinking, a licensing partner approached us, a Chinese company, and they wanted to experiment this location-based LBE exhibitions through brand licensing business model. And we couldn't do anything. We needed the money, so we said, yes, let's give it a go. And now, in 2025, we have already developed 5 different LBEs because there are different types and shapes, and within which 2 LBE is the exhibition type. And these 2 exhibition type of LBE has traveled to more than 31 cities across China and reach out to almost 1 million visitors, generating 500,000 pounds of income. And so that is without any physical travel, any physical objects. All was done on high-res images, digitized from the library. So in today's session, I'm going to go through, give you a quick introduction about LBE, just because I don't think that a lot of people know about that. And I'm going to talk about how this brand licensing partnership works, the roles and responsibilities. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of benefits and challenges. And the last bit, I'm going to reflect on what we can learn from the LBEs done by licensees. So before I start that, I just wanted to go back to the core subject matter of this conference today and yesterday. It's about exhibitions. So what makes a successful exhibitions? It can be, many people have different ideas, and many different roles, different departments have different ideas. So it can be the originality, it could be the clear concept, and throughout thorough creation, engaging narrative, or design, whether it's visually attractive, or is it emotional or intellectual impact? Or is it audience engagement? Or box office for us, for the library? So I would invite you to also think about whether there's anything that's outside of my list here, and I'm sure there are many. So location-based experiences is a growing industry that combines elements of hospitality, retail, and leisure. And it's a growing global market size. So the last year's estimation was US dollar 5.6 billion US dollar, and then it's going to the projection of growing in the next 5 years. And in the brand licensing sector, this is also a trendy, growing exponentially, driven by some key indicators and key growth drivers. So the first one is, of course, technology advancement with AR, VR, AI, how you use that, you apply those technologies in exhibition or in those kind of immersive experience. And then consumers' demand for immersive experiences. So I can't remember what research, but then there's research done on consumers, especially younger, between 25 and 34, 25 and 34 years. There was about almost 60% of consumers of that age prefer spending money on experiences, and then less than 40% spend money on goods, actually products. So this is increasing demands on doing something together with friends and family rather than just buying something for themselves. And lastly, of course, social media trend influences whether you can take photos that you can share on the internet, or you can put something to share with your friends. So it has to be visually engaging. And the LBE comes in different shapes and forms. So just to give you some examples, you see Sleep No More by Punch Drunk, immersive theater, really popular, global success, and Horizon of Khufu. That's I think that's a VR immersive experience, but with headsets. It's developed by Xcurio. And then there's also life-size board game, like life-size Monopoly, where you go in, you actually play Monopoly, you throw the dice. And then Sherlock Holmes, escape room, that's also kind of LBE, like you do it together with friends. And then immersive light show, that's something everyone must know, Van Gogh exhibition, going, again, traveling around the world. And for us, the other type of, another type of LBE, which the library has done a small project on, was a pop-up display, so pop-up display or pop-up shop. So we had this project delivered by Artistory, which is one of our brand licensing partners, and then they developed this using Lewis Carroll's Alice Adventures in Wonderland, and developed this kind of like immersive space, pop-up space in Malaysian airports. So travelers going there can, I don't know, travel and then sit there and take photos. And then they also designed this like, I don't know how you call it, but in the, like a ride of teacups where you just keep turning. And I was thinking, is that really a good idea before you go on the flight? And I don't know, making you nauseous. So that's, and then the other one that we have done with, again, through the partnership with Artistory, we had developed this afternoon tea session with in Fairmont Hotel in Singapore. So they, again, you see they use the fairy tale Cinderella, and then it's illustrated by Arthur Rackham, and they just turn the design, using the design elements to make desserts and sweets and sandwiches. And it's, again, an experience for you to immerse yourself in where you're doing something else, in this case, having afternoon tea and cakes. So, but today I'm going to talk about the exhibition types of LBEs, which is similar to exhibitions, but again, trigger warning, it's developed by our licensees and using the brand licensing model. So this museum box is a Chinese company who approached us back in 2021, and they have developed two LBE exhibition type of LBE. One is called Pixel World at the British Library, and then the other world is Around the World in 18 days. 80, not 18, 80 days. So British Library's brand licensing LBE enable visitors to engage with the library's collection in a light touch way. You're not going to have very in-depth kind of explanation or interpretation of the objects, and then some selection of objects seems a bit random, but the ultimate goal is for visitors to have fun, to enjoy, and to take photos, and go out, put it on social media, to generate more interest for more people to come. And then also, something for us, one of our objectives, in addition to taking photos and everything, we also hope that could generate interest in our collection items. So visitors might see one object and thinking, this is interesting, I read it on the textbook, let me do more research after they have visited the LBE. So it's all about creating an engaging environment for family and young audiences. So how does brand licensing work in this kind of like, this business model? How do we apply that in such exhibition creation type of like a journey? So again, back to the objective, it's all about entertainment and then generating income. And you have to remember that the curatorial control is handed over to the licensees, not with you. But then I think a good way to think about it is the traditional licensing, brand licensing, you think about putting Alice in Wonderland, Adventures in Wonderland, an image of Alice or White Rabbit on a mug or a cup or bag. So just thinking about the LB as one product. So using images on this product and how are they going to use it. So what we provide is image and content research, because they might think, oh, I want to tell this story. I want this section to be an image from the medieval period, and I want a cat. And then, so this at this point, we will be like doing a little bit of initial research, me and my team. And then if we can't find more, and we do work closely with creators, so we do go to them and ask for advice and asking whether you have any interesting cat image from your collection areas, and we will share with them. And so we put image and collection research, and then provide them with high-res images. So we have an internal digitized photographer who will take digitization photos, and if we don't have it already, we provide that services. And then it's important to have a robust approval process, because they are doing everything in China, and you're sitting in London having conversation 8 hours different. And you have to approve on the curatorial thought, the theme, the collection selection, because some collection items in the library are sensitive, and then they have provenance issues or questions. So you have to approve everything and then get advice on them. And then also they decide their own design, the marketing material, the press release, the social media posts, everything needs to go through us for approval. And then so we like gatekeeping on this front, on this level. And then again, yeah, so back to my point, like it's a team of 2 people. So we don't know everything in the library. So we do consult our colleagues a lot across the library, whether curatorial team or marketing team, or sometimes like press release, we will send it to our colleagues in the press team. Sorry about that. I joke that I joke to other friends here that I'm allergic to presentation. And then, of course, the most important thing is you have to have agreed terms and condition and a fee structure, and then you agree on the scope, how many images you are gonna use in this, and how big is this LBE? Is it gonna be 1,000 square meter, or is it gonna be smaller size? And then the fee structure is very much depends on what you agree to provide, and what the scope and the scale of the LBE. Okay, so I'm going to use these 2 exhibition type of LBE as case study, like to share with you what they do. And then I don't want to talk about the LBE as replacement of the exhibition created by the British Library, because the British Library exhibition is created by our curator, and then years of preparation. I don't think they are replaceable. They are 2 completely different products, or let me just use some commercial, 2 completely different output. So I want to share these 2 LBEs just to provide you some alternative ways of thinking, and then to go back to the 3rd slide where I talk about what makes a successful exhibition. You can think about what they do well, and then what they do, that's something that we definitely do, but what are the things that they do, and perhaps we can do something similar but in a different way to make our exhibition more successful. Because at the end of the day, their objective is money. They have to generate income, so they have to ensure there's high engagement in everything they do. So Pixel World at the British Library is basically the treasures of the British Library. So they created 5 different sections, starting from universe, and then going into literature, science, music, and fairy tale. So they gather everything that's most famous and well known, and then because they are doing it in the Chinese market. So the object selections is very much focused on the audiences. So some authors, or in literature or in science field, might be popular in the UK or famous, but people don't know. So I think that's go back to what Vanessa said, like you go out and you realize that actually the person, I thought everyone knows Charlotte Bronte, but it's not true. A lot of people don't know them, which is not true, because Charlotte Bronte is actually really famous in China. So that was just an example. So the visitors go through these 5 sections. It's a 1,000 square meter of LBE, and then they go to, you can be seeing Shakespeare first folio facsimile in one room, Charlotte Bronte's manuscript of Jane Eyre, and then you go to the other rooms in science, you will see Leonardo da Vinci's Codex Arundel blown up on the wall, and you go to the next section, it's just a room of fairy tale from Christian Andersen on the wall, and you can take photo interactive installations. So this is the first exhibition. And then the second one, Around the World in 80 Days, is completely different. The curatorial thoughts is based on the book itself. So it's to mark the 150 years of publication of Around the World in 80 Days. They developed this LBE. So based on the following the protagonist kind of like journey through around the world, they create different rooms for different cities. And to enrich the experience, they also draw on different collection items based on the theme or subject matters that they deem relevant to that city. And again, sometimes it may seem a bit random, and I'll give you some examples later. Oh, sorry. So, for example, this one is because they want to address in the mid-19th century where the story took place. They want to address at that moment the establishment of gold standard and then the dominating kind of like British sterling in this global financial market. So they did a little bit of research, and then they found two images from the British Library, one for the Bank of England and Stock Exchange, the Great Hall. So they put it in the exhibition, and this is not something probably we wouldn't usually do, but they think this is important because they think this explains what's happening, and then this is something that children learn from their textbook as well. So they think, I'll put this on, and then so people feel that they can relate to the story you're telling. And then there are different ways of displaying objects, because what we provide are high-res images. So these high-res images, digitized images, were used in different ways, either made into facsimile or just blown up on the wall. They're blown up and then put it on the wall, make it as a banner, or sometimes made into interactive installations. So for the image that you see now is Yongle Dadian, which is basically an encyclopedia from Ming Dynasty in the 15th century, and then every child in every student in China knows about this Ming encyclopedia. So, and then the British Library have some of the items, and so they take these high-res images, and you can see banners picking up elements, and then make banners just to create an immersive space. And then on the wall and not from the portrait of Yongle, the emperor, is actually from another collection item where they find, it's actually a collection item of portraits of all emperors in China. And the next one is a video that I took when I visited the place. I just want to show you this, the first thing you saw, the first thing you see here is the mortise tenon structure that's mentioned in the encyclopedia. And then they found an old practitioner, and they just made it and then put it in the case to give you the sense of this is a precious technology advancement in the Chinese history. And you can see this is a space where you can take photos, when you can walk around. And in the end, you also see that they put up a stand so for people to write calligraphy, but basically learn how to or try to write in the font or the style typography of the Yongle Dadian. So this is just one example of the rooms. And in the universe room, again, I said, although sometimes because what they want is they want the room to be aesthetically engaging. So you would find similarly random objects put together in the same room. So on the left-hand side is one of the biggest map in Europe made in the 17th century. And then on the right-hand side, it's celestial cartography, a map of the universe. And then you can see how they just make a replica of the Klencke Atlas, and then put it on the floor. And whilst on the other side, they created banners using the atlas, the Klencke Atlas on the right-hand side. And the other example is like they use digitized images to develop interactive and smart installations. Again, a little bit of randomness. On the map on the left-hand side is a London map made in 1616, and then I think they reproduced it in 1650, around that time. And then they created this installation map, so you can move around that circle on the screen, and they connected it with the Great Fire of London, which took place in 1666. And then again, in a usual exhibition, we wouldn't put those two things together, because all of a sudden you're talking about a map of London, but then the other thing you're talking about Great Fire. But then they wanted to be interactive. They wanted kids and family when they go there, they can actually do something with their hand. So they put those two things together, and explaining to people a wide variety of subjects, including what buildings you can see from the map, but also the Great Fire of London. And on the right-hand side is where you see my first slide, the cover slide. It's Homer Scroll, when they use the projection, and then it's a very popular Instagram. So they use in China, they use different social media, but then the equivalent of Instagram, a really famous spot for it. A lot of people, everyone taking photo with their back to it, and then having the projection light to their. Basically, they are part of this light projection. Sorry. And because we reduce the reliance on physical objects, because we have heard from so many speakers today and yesterday, when it comes to books, it's about the angle, and it's about the conservation, humidity and temperature control, and the security control. So there are a lot of limitations and restrictions when it comes to physical objects. But then once we remove that, it opens up to many, many different opportunities, including the venue selection. On the left-hand side, it can take place in a traditional exhibition space, like in the left-hand side, it's in Shanghai Library, in their exhibition room. So that's around the world in 80 days. But it can also take place in a high-traffic, a busy shopping mall. On the right-hand side is right in the middle of Lujiazui, which is like one of the business area in Shanghai Pudong, in a shopping mall. So it allows us, or the licensees, to select venues where we usually wouldn't be able to go to. And also, a wide range of activities can be planned inside. And again, it's all about experience. It's all about visitors' experience. So, and then I think you can already see from the images, they're all kids, families, and young children. So they want to create activities. So I want to say that yesterday, I don't know which speaker mentioned the church, kind of like church feeling attitude. There's no such thing. When I went there, it was so noisy. It was crazy. It was bear behavior, I would say, like kids running around, screaming and shouting. And then you can see like they created this boat next to, in the Shanghai, kind of Shanghai room. And then you can be playing piano in the music section with your hands and with your feet on the floor. And in Sherlock Holmes area, you can try to resolve the puzzle on the wall. So it's all about what you can do there, and then what creates memorable experience. You can go away thinking, oh, I've done this, I've done that, in around the world in 80 days. And workshop, and being commercially savvy, they find opportunities to create income generation events. So they also organize or developed workshops for family and young children to take part. So you can see there's a small lab, the one in the middle. They created this kind of like lab activities for children to look into the microscope. And then they also, the gold penning in the America section in around the world in 80 days. they allow children to do gold penning. So and these are also part of the income generation that they can provide in addition to the ticket sales. And I would say, again, without the physical objects, of course, you miss the value of having the physical object there. But then you are also allowed to do, for example, gold penning, actually having water in the exhibition room, which you would not be allowed to do if you're having physical objects there. And then when it comes to agility, just because if you have 150 objects touring around the world, they have to go to one spot at a time. But because there's no reliance on physical objects, it's all digital. So, and then they make props, so they can travel or they can take place in multiple cities at a time. So just when I speak now, there are 6 LBEs taking place in China at the moment. So going into the benefits and challenges, and of course I just want to go through it so you have a little bit understanding, like a sneak peek into how do we make informed decision, just going through this pros and cons. So financially, because your licensees, your partners, they're responsible for developing the thing. And then everyone who's done exhibition before knows that you have to have a budget. And then there's budget limitation, basically restrict you from, I don't know, like the objects you can loan, or what kind of technology, how many tablets you can have, and what kind of material you can use in this the design. But then because the licensee is the one who put the money in to develop everything, so that they remove that financial burden, and then they share that business risk, because they are the one who ultimately needs to be responsible for the result. So they will do everything to ensure that they generate income. And the licensees also have the understanding of the local market. I'm not talking about doing something completely different in a different territory. I'm not talking about LBEs in the UK. And I think China especially is a different landscape when they use completely different technology and social media. So having a licensee there, your partner there, understanding the market, knowing which influencers to go to, and knowing which media, where to sell tickets, which platforms to use, that's very important. And of course, knowing what sells. That's going back to what I said about knowing which collection items to pick, because they want to make sure that they strike a fine balance between introducing new items to the market, as well as making sure that they feel familiar with, they are seeing things that they know. So I think they do a lot from selecting names from textbooks, children's textbook, what they learn in science, what they learn in music, what they learn in literature. And operationally, again, back to promotional marketing, and all the fees are covered by them. And audience outreach and engagement, I just like, without the number talks, like they reach out to almost 1 million visitors across China. This is something that we wouldn't have been able to do without this partnership. But then, of course, going to the challenges, there are many. And then I think the most important for us, I'm going back from the bottom, is the reputational risk, how we ensure that we mitigate the risk, how we manage that. And then the most important thing is for us to, how do we communicate British Library values, and how do we explain and talk about representation? Because they look at sales number, they want to make sure it's engaging. Other elements or criteria are kind of like not as important. So how do we communicate reputation, inclusivity, ethics, and how do we make sure that we advise on whether one object is suitable to be used in such commercial setting or not? Or even sometimes whether is it appropriate to talk about a certain object in a certain way. And the second challenge is, again, is relevant, is how sometimes when they compromise on the clearness of concept or narrative because of the commerciality. The decision they make is purely commercial. So how do we deal with that compromise? what is the level of, to what degree are we happy for them to make that choice, and to which degree do we have to say no to a certain decisions. And then distance, again, it's not even just arm's length distance, it's oceans apart. They are miles away in China, and the physical distance, and then curatorial, the whole concept, the cultural differences. How do you ensure that we can have that communication and we can talk about, and then sometimes it's just very practical. By the time you start working, it's already 5 o'clock at the time, and then they work at such different speed. They send you a design, they want feedback tomorrow. So how do we work collaboratively and with trust in such physical, in such distance? And then so all these things that are the things that we need to think about. But then for the commercial services, we generate income, but then we also understand what we cannot compromise. And we also understand that in addition to income generation, it is also a great opportunity to reach audience objectives. Because the library believes that our collections is for enjoyment, research, and for inspiration. So enjoyment is one important part of it, and people do find enjoyment and inspiration in different ways. So what can we learn from the LBEs? These are just a few questions that I would ask everyone here, and then I've been thinking about as well. So for future, do we need physical objects, or do we not? And I think that goes, if we go deeper, that the question is actually, what is the value of the object? Is it the content, or is it the object itself? It's an open question for everyone here. And who are our audiences and who are our non-audiences? I look at the British Library's audiences, they are all over, correct me if I'm wrong, Julian, like over 45, 50. Yeah, so, and then, when you look at the demographic of people going to the British Library exhibition, and then looking at the people going to LBE here, very different. But then also, there's no right and wrong in any way. So, but then it's just about, who are you pitching to? Who are you talking to? Who are you trying to tell the stories to? And you design your exhibition, develop your exhibition in a different way. And how to create a memorable experience. And I think we touched upon sensory experience yesterday, and then it's all about making sure that, like, giving the opportunity or giving that space for them to actually touch something, smell something, or experience something, and then they can go away having that memory, and then generate that interest, and then how do you galvanize that dynamic energy, and then promote further, I don't know, research, reading, generate more interest for them to do research, and then actually to explore collection items or read books in your library or in your institutions. And then one important thing from doing it, as I said, it's risky to put your collection items, not like digitally, in somebody else, in your partners, for them to create exhibitions. And it is very scary, I would imagine, to a lot of people who haven't done that before. And then it is a risk for us as well. We're well aware of that. But then I think it also brings us to more opportunities, so we can think about who are our potential partners, what can they do with us collaboratively, and even better, generate income for you. And then how, once you find them, where are they? What can we do with them? What are their strengths? How do you leverage their strengths? I think these are the questions when we think about actually showcasing our books, or our manuscripts, or our collection items that's stored in the strong room or on the shelves. What can you do with them? And then I think it's one of the British Library's value, doing more collaboratively, or doing more, sorry, I don't know, I can't recite our British Library value. So doing more with partners, or like something along the line. So thinking about who are your partners and what can you do with them, because we all have limited resource. We're juggling so many different jobs on a daily basis, but then how can we work with other people? And then the last thing, I want to conclude this presentation by sharing one example Shanghai Library's director's experience, because they hosted the Around the World in 80 Day LBE in Shanghai Library, and then the way he sees the LBE, he sees it as, he said, this is not an exhibition, but he said this is event or an activity. This is a door to encourage visitors to read. So for Shanghai Library, different from other shopping malls where they just want a cultural event taking place in the commercial space, Shanghai Library's director instructed his team to draw up reading lists. So from Around the World in 80 Days, whether there's any subject matters they touch upon, whether it's science, whether it's industrial revolution, whether it's literature, fashion. So they draw up a reading list for visitors to, you can refer on the reading list. If you're interested on a certain subject matter, you can read this book and borrow that book. This is the ebook, QR code for ebook that you can scan, and then you can find out more about it. So I really like the way he sees this, and I think it is so important to us, because a lot of time while we're trying to tell other people what to read or what to learn, but wouldn't it be better if we just show them a lot of different things in a fun and engaging way, and then tell them, here are the list of books that you can go read on your own, or read with your friends, or go to learn in class or in library. So thank you very much for your attention to this very commercial presentation, and I hope that provides you some different ways of thinking in what you can do with your collection items, and then working in partnerships. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I love how every presentation complements the previous one or discussions that we had the day before. Are there any questions or comments? There are 2 questions. I'm so happy to have them.
I was very happy to hear your conclusion with the reading list at the end of this experience, because I was thinking, how provocative was it for the British Library? Because you are a big institution with a huge collection, and you do LBEs, and the question of physical documents or not having there, and except of the income that it generates, what is the impact for the British Library with the project you are doing? Is there an impact that you can see? Is there a difference after those experiments?
Yeah, I think so there are indicators, so there are data that we can look at. So the visitors number and sales, ticket sales, those are the most direct ways. And then we also look at reviews on the ticket sales, like Chinese social media website. There's a Xiaohongshu, like Redbook, and you can see people's comments about those LBEs. And then there's something that we could do more is that we have a Chinese language website, and then throughout the way we're trying to think about how we can connect that and drive traffic to our website, or drive traffic to our. To answer your question, it's like, I think the most direct way is sales number and the visitors number, but then we are still trying to figure out how we can convert that to things or data that's relevant to the UK market or to the UK. So for example, we don't have, because of language barriers and then technology, the Great Firewall, so not all Chinese audiences after going to LBEs will immediately think about going to British Library Catalogue website. Yeah, because it's completely different language. They probably don't speak English. So it's really hard to convert that kind of like impact. But then you can see on the Chinese social media platforms how many people started to talk about the British Library, and then how many people started to understand the brand. Because I think even in the UK, a lot of people still confuse British Library with British Museum. So I think it's a way to gradually build your brand profile, and it takes time. And I'm hoping that out of those 1 million visitors, if 50% of them remembers the British Library brand and then one object from the British Library, that's already very impactful. And then I think something I was planning to say is the last slide, the reason why I choose to use that slide back to the, how do you call it, glass coffin? Because what I want to say is, in those LBEs, you will times again see they make replica. So what did I say? That was a literature section. They make replica. They made replica of Oscar Wilde manuscript. So there is still a desire, and a strong desire for physical objects. Our licensees also ask us if it's possible for us to only bring one highlight object that we can put in the middle of the LBE. So there's desire for this. There's desire for glass coffin, but it's just how do we reach that balance between presenting in a fun way, but then also make a lasting impact, or lasting impact, and make them remember that. So I think that's a question for you all. I'm not going to give you an answer because I don't have one. Mm.
Sorry, Susan, would you like to comment on you?
Maybe this is more of a coffee time question, but I'm really interested in the approvals process and where that sits in the hierarchy of your institution. Is it with you, curators, conservators, or is it at a much higher level?
I think just for the practicality, because most of it is done in Chinese. So me and my direct reports, we will do the first kind of like scrutinizing. We go through all the process, like all the documents to approve it. And then we, based on our experiences in the library, of course, I'm not saying that we know everything, but we can very quickly filter what we think is definitely fine. And then we can highlight things that we think might be problematic or things that we're not sure about. And then that's when we escalate to either curatorial team, not escalate, like contact curatorial team colleague or exhibition team colleague or marketing colleague to ask for their advice. And I think in such kind of like fast-paced environment where you have to give approval in a very short space of time, a lot of time you just say no. If you're not sure, no, sorry, we can do this. We will say to them, if you want us to do further research on whether you can talk about this object in this way, it's gonna take 2 months of our time. Our researchers are busy. Yeah, so you just say no to them and then think about what alternative objects they can use, because you know what they want. They want something beautiful. So instead of object A, you find something relevant, but then safer, and then you give it to them as an alternative. And then it's all about how they present it, either facsimile or props or installation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very curious. I just wanted to know about the budgeting part. So do you also then budget those products, like, for example, the salaries for researchers and everything, and then what is the return? Can you share how actually income generating it has been since you started it, and how actually, I just wanted to see the income and do you have any kind of obligations of where you should spend that income, or it can be used on anything at the British Library budget, or is this fixed for only East Asians or Asian collections or something?
Yeah, I think, so I'll start with the British Library kind of like policy, or how we are structured. So all income generation comes to the library into the same pot, and we don't have control over that. So the commercial team, we also have publishing team, retail and venue hire, etc. So visitor experience. So no matter how much money, it can be like 5 billion or what it's like just a figure, or it can be £500. They all go to the same pot. And then it's then redistributed by the library to each department. But then in an ideal world, what I think we could do is to kind of say, we got the support from this curatorial team, particular for this project. I do feel like we should say we got contribution from learning team giving us advice on a certain commercial project. We should be able to kind of like channel that, but like income back to the department to provide some sort of incentive, but it doesn't work that way in the library. Everything goes to the central part, and then everything was redistributed. So when we do the LBE, we don't really budget anything for it. It's just staff time, and then our curatorial team has been really supportive, and the exhibition team as well. And then we will try to do the first kind of like gatekeeping job. So we will try to minimize the task that we required from other departments as much as possible. So when we go to them, it's something that we're absolutely not sure about, and then we will try to simplify their task, and just to say, for example, this LBE licensee want to use the image, and then in this section, what do you think? Whether, and we will say we feel it's a bit inappropriate or it's not relevant. Do you have any advice? So just try to minimize it, so we don't take too much of our colleagues' time. I don't know whether that answered your questions. Maybe it's a coffee break.
Thank you so much.